Hey, what's going on? Haven't done one of these prediction videos in a while. It's been a few years. I think my last one was UFC 268, which would have been Usman versus Covington 2. I think that's November 2021. But yeah, I've been betting the entire time. In 2022, I got my bankroll up to 35,000. Wound up losing all that money. Been kind of up and down since then. And really, what's kind of driven me to make these videos again, uh, or at least this one in particular, is I've been doing really, really well the past few months. Granted, I've been betting very small bet sizes, but just to give you a perspective, I started May 2024 a few months ago. I deposited $100 in my account again, and ever since then, I've only been making one unit equals 1% bets. So back in May when I started would have been $1 bets. But now I'm up to $800 in less than 3 months. So been doing really, really well. Been smashing the last few cards for UFC in particular, but also I do all the other cards. Anyway, enough with that. I'll just briefly go over some of the recent cards that I've been betting on, and I've been just leaving like comments on MMA Masterminds videos. Some of these comments I'm leaving my bets beforehand, before the card happens. Some I'm leaving them after the card happens. But you can go check for yourself. This is Luis Nascimento back in May. I think I kind of like broke even here. Murphy Barboza. Uh, I think I profited for that one. UFC 302 broke even. UFC 303, I did really well. I went up 17 units. Uh, the Namajunas Cortez card, I also went up 21 units here, though I lost some money on some regional stuff. And then last week, Jandiroba versus Lemos, one of my best cards I've ever done. And I've been doing this for 5 years now. And I think I got every fight correct, or every fight I bet on correct. And the only thing I got wrong was I just picked the method for Hollowball wrong. And I bet Verna by KO because it was crazy odds instead of the sub. But enough with that. Uh, we'll just get into the card here. So first fight we have Shauna Bannon versus Elise Ardeline. And real quick, just to mention these numbers at the top here in the parentheses, these are my ELO ratings. This is something that I used to do. I still do it. I'm not going to go too into it too much, but it's just kind of a number that kind of gauges how strong someone's fight resume is. It doesn't necessarily mean the higher number is always going to win. It doesn't work like that. But again, just a brief way to kind of gauge, oh, this person is, you know, at this level, kind of. Anyway, with Shauna Bannon, she's I guess she's kind of like the hometown fighter, so she'll have that advantage there. Elise Ardeline stepping up short notice. Really don't know much about her. I kind of like checked her fight record, and the past few years she's been fighting just like complete bums. She was on this reality TV show. It's basically like the Tough for South Africa. So she won a few fights there. They don't count for a pro record, but I kind of count them anyway. But yeah, I mean, Elise, she's older. She's going to be significantly smaller than Shauna, at least based off of the stats that I'm seeing. I don't think Shauna's that good either, but she is better than Elise in my opinion. So I think Shauna Bannon's got this money line minus 175 seems pretty decent, as well as her winning by decision because Shauna seems to only win by decision. All right, next fight we have Mick Parkin. I got him to win. So I got him by the money line minus 270, a little bit steep. And then if you want plus odds, I would also go with the decision, which would be plus 125. Uh, the decision makes sense because Mick Parkin's last three wins, all by decision. Granted, he hasn't really looked too impressive in any of them. The Jamal Pokes fight, I don't know if you call it impressive because Jamal Pokes kind of sucks, but he did like thoroughly dominate that. His last two fights were very close. You could argue that maybe he lost one of them. But things to like with Mick Parkin, he's one of the few young guys at heavyweight. So he is kind of like a prospect. He's also undefeated. I believe he trains with Aspinall. He's also willing to grapple. He's not just going to just stand there. And I think he will have to grapple in this fight against Brzezinski because Brzezinski kind of sucks too, but he does seem to do well if it's a purely stand up fight, and if it's like a stand up point fight, he could probably outstrike Parkin. So look for Parkin to try and mix things up a bit. But yeah, I got these are the two bets I have for this one. Moving on, we have Sam Patterson versus Kiefer Crosby. I would say this one's pretty much a lock. I think Kiefer Crosby is just really low level. The guy's been finished multiple times, especially by sub. He just seems to get subbed in the first round very often. Even if you go back to his amateur career, he's getting subbed by Rostam Akhman, who I believe is just a Muay Thai fighter, former UFC fighter. But yeah, a lot of his losses are just first round submission losses, and that's one of the props we have for this one. Sam Patterson money line pretty steep, -360, but you can get plus odds on him to win by first round submission. And you look at Sam Patterson's record. I mean, the guy is a finisher. He's always looking for submissions. He's even finished some pretty high level competition in Brave. So uh, I think that's a great value bet there. And then other things to like, Sam Patterson's significantly younger. He's 28. Kiefer Crosby's 34. By my Elo system, Sam Patterson way higher rating, 239 points higher. And when you look at guys who are between 200 to 250 points higher than their opponent, and they're also younger, they win 84% of the time. So good value here. All right, next fight is Oban Elliott versus Preston Parsons. This is a bit more uh of a close fight for sure. Oban Elliott is the money line underdog here, but there are some things to like. So again, he is younger. He is a little bit larger, it seems, than Preston Parsons. We'll have to see for sure. At the weigh-in and face-off. Parsons he's actually not that bad. He's like a decent fighter, but he's very dependent on getting takedowns and grappling his opponents. He cannot, Preston Parsons cannot win a fight if it's purely stand up. Oban Elliott can. Oban Elliott's definitely more well rounded. He can lose if Parsons is just the better grappler and is able to like impose his will. But I don't think that will happen. I think Oban Elliott's decent. Uh, and again, we're also betting the decision on this fight. Plus 275, which I think is amazing value. Oban Elliott's last 5 fights have all been wins by decision. And then Preston Parsons, his last 3 fights have all gone decision as well. So I think the value's there. I think it makes sense. Uh, I think all four of these, the money line, the over 2.5 fight goes the distance, and especially Elliott by decision plus 275. Next fight is I know, so we're skipping some fights. I'm not betting every fight. So I think Kopp and Mokaev, I don't have a bet for that. So just keep that in mind. Next fight we have Caolan Loughran versus Jake Hadley. And Jake Hadley, he's moving up from flyweight to bantamweight. This is actually Jake Hadley's first fight ever at bantamweight, including his amateur career. And we saw Jake Hadley at flyweight. I mean, he was getting controlled by Alan Nascimento and Cody Durden. Granted, they're good grapplers, but he is just getting like absolutely dominated in the grappling in those fights. He's simply too small. He fought Charles Johnson his last fight, and Charles is a huge flyweight, but again, it's just like Hadley's too small for flyweight, and then he's moving up to bantamweight. And you look at Loughran. I mean, just look at his build. Loughran, he's got this tank build. He's going to be way bigger, way more muscular. Uh, the age is about the same. Hadley's just about to be 28. Caolan just turned 28. Uh, yeah, so I got Loughran by decision here, or no, not by decision. I only have him by money line. I don't actually like any of the props for this because Loughran by decision is actually minus money. It's minus 115, and then his KO prop is actually pretty good. It's plus 500, but Hadley's never been knocked out. All of Hadley's losses, even in the amateurs, they're all by decision. So I don't really want to bet minus money on Loughran by decision. Uh, so we'll just go with the money line here. Just stick with that. All right. Next fight we have. We're skipping, I guess, Molly McCann and Bruno Brazil. Skipping that one, going straight to Daniel Pineda versus Nathaniel Wood. And I got Daniel Pineda here. I believe he's the biggest underdog on the entire card, which I think is crazy because, granted, Pineda, he's been pretty much like a 50-50 fighter in the UFC, but I mean, I don't think he's that bad. The guy, he's a great finisher, you know. He has power in his hands. He's not a good striker, but he does have power. He throws hard, and he's a great grappler. I do think Wood is also severely overrated. If you kind of just look at Wood's wins, they're really not too impressive. You know, uh he beat Andre Feely, and Pineda was getting destroyed by Feely and it wound up being a no contest. But I don't think Wood really destroyed Feely. He just like beat him 2-1 by decision. You know, Charles Jourdain, that was an easy win for Wood because he just took him down a bunch. Charles has very poor takedown defense. Same thing with Charles Rosa. That's not really an impressive victory, in my opinion. I just think Wood is kind of overrated. He's not a great finisher. His last 6 fights, all by decision, right? He just lost to Naimov. He lost to Casey Kenny several years ago. They're both close fights, but still, just like I just don't find him very impressive. Pineda, on the other hand, again, he's not the best fighter either, but he does have some good wins. You know, go back to PFL 5 years ago. There's no contest on his record because he tested positive, but you know, he knocked out Kai Bulayev. He guillotine showed Jeremy Kennedy both in the first round, on the same day actually. Uh, so yeah, I just like Pineda here. I like the value on him. He's won a lot of fights as a big underdog. You know, that Kai Bulayev fight in 2019 in PFL, he was plus 525, right? So he's coming in here plus 300. I already bet him at plus 375. And just another thing to look at, the points handicap, the plus 3.5, plus 240. You know, if Nathaniel Wood wins a 29-28 decision, you're still cashing that plus 240 on Pineda, so another spot to look for. Next fight is Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. And I got Arnold Allen here. I got him by decision. Now, the decision is minus 110, which, you know, similar to Loughran, which was also minus money, but Arnold Allen's a decisionator. You know, Loughran's a guy who gets a lot of KOs, uh, typically. Arnold Allen always goes to decision. I mean, the only fight where he really like finished a guy, Dan Hooker, and that was Dan Hooker just like cutting way too much weight. He did finish Calvin Cater, but that was a kind of a freak knee injury. Uh, but yeah, I got Arnold Allen here. He's a lot younger than Giga. I think Giga is pretty overrated in my opinion. He's got the higher ELO rating. You can see here. Uh, you know, younger fighter, 100 to 150 points higher in rating. It's about 74% win rate. Mostly decision wins. Allen, he will grapple. You know, he will go for takedowns, and you know, Giga Chikadze, he's got uh he's got a big grappling deficiency. I mean, he got choked out by Austin Springer on the Contender Series, and no one's really been trying to like wrestle Giga since. You know, definitely easier said than done. I mean, the guy's a great striker, very long and tall, but still, I think Allen's got the skills to mix it up. Uh, and you know, he hasn't been KO'd or finished or anything like that. I don't think he's even really been severely hurt in any of his fights. So I think Allen's got this in the bag, and I like all 4 of these props for this fight. Next fight, we have Christian Leroy Duncan versus Gregory Rodriguez. We're going a CLD here. Duncan, he's the younger guy. He's very big. Rodriguez is big too. So you got a guy who can match Rodriguez in the physicality department. CLD, he's a big KO artist. All of his all of his wins in the UFC so far is he's 3-1 in the UFC, all of them by knockout. Even before that on Cage Warriors, he was knocking out most of his opponents. We know Gregory Rodriguez, he is chinny. He got KO'd by Bruno Ferreira, got KO'd by Jordan Williams. So, and even in some of these other fights he has, like with Jin Young Park, like he's very hittable. Like that was a war. Jin Young Park almost knocked him out in that fight too. So I think Christian Leroy Duncan can find Rodriguez's chin. Now there is an issue where I think CLD's his grappling's probably not that good, and Obama or Gregory Rodriguez, he's got great grappling. The issue is he just doesn't shoot for takedowns all too much. He likes to stand and bang, and I think that's going to be the end of Rodriguez. One more thing to like here, I didn't put it on the PowerPoint here, but Christian Leroy Duncan, he's got a 4-inch reach advantage, which is definitely going to come into play here. So again, CLD first round knockout plus 375. I think that's amazing value. I like the under. Uh, if CLD were to lose, I could see him getting knocked out as well. If that were to happen, and that'd probably be early. It'd probably be some sort of like draw. All right, moving on. We have Paddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green. Kind of shocked that Paddy's money line is, or that Paddy's the underdog here. You still got plus value on the money line. I don't have a method for this fight simply because I think Paddy can win in any number of ways. I think he can knock out Bobby Green. Bobby Green, he is a bit chinny. Let's be real. He's lost his last 3 fights by KO. Uh, Paddy does have a great grappling. So if Paddy could get the back, I think he can get a submission. And then also Paddy's won several fights by decision. Granted, the Jared Gordon fight, everyone can agree that was a robbery, but decision win nonetheless. And again, Paddy Pimblett, 8 years younger. That's huge advantage. He is the star. He's one of the biggest stars in the UFC. So if it does go to decision, he's going to get that help from the judges most likely. He's the hometown guy, so he's got more to fight for. And so that's kind of my breakdown of this. Clearly Bobby Green is the he should be the better striker on paper. He's definitely way faster. And I will say one thing about Paddy is that a lot of his fights, he can be a little bit overly reliant on jujitsu. Even like earlier, a few years ago when he was fighting like Rodrigo Vargas, he was on his back and he had to work his way to get sweeps or reverse position. And Bobby Green, he does have decent grappling. So if he gets top position, I can see Bobby Green kind of remaining in top position and not getting subbed. So just something to think about, but I'm pretty confident Paddy's got this in the bag, and at plus money, I think it's a great bet. Moving on, we have the co-main event. So it's Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. I got Tom Aspinall here. I think he's the most skilled heavyweight uh, possibly we've ever seen. I mean, the guy's super fast on the feet. He's got the speed of Cyril Gahn, but he's also got great grappling on top of it, right? And he actually hunts for submissions. He's not a lay and pray guy. He's also very large, so he can match Curtis Blades in the size department, right? Uh, and Blades is a guy, I mean, I actually think Blades is very good. He's a very skilled fighter, but his last fight against Jailton Almeida, he did win it, but he got taken down over and over again by Almeida in the first round. And I just think it's a bad look. And I think if Almeida is just like ragdolling Blades for 5 whole minutes, Almeida's not necessarily the same type of submission hunter as Aspinall, in my opinion. I think Aspinall could probably get a submission if he's on top of Blades for that long. Another thing with Blades is, people think he's chinny. I don't necessarily think he's chinny because he's getting knocked out by like Pavlovich or Derek Lewis, the best knockout artists in UFC history, and Ngannou as well. But I think it's more Blade struggles under fire. Like when guys blitz him, I think that's when Blades kind of crumbles a bit. And Aspinall, I mean, he's done that to a lot of guys. Done that to Spivak, Tybura, and even Pavlovich, right? Like Pavlovich was swinging on him. Aspinall stayed composed and found the chin. Now, the only concern I really have with Aspinall is that they fought 10 seconds 2 years ago, and Aspinall did look bad in those 10 seconds. But take that for what it's worth. It's only 10 seconds of fight time we really got to see. I also see people saying that Aspinall might have cardio issues because he's never even been to the third round, I don't believe. Whereas Curtis has, but Curtis fought Volkov in a 5 round decision back in 2020, and Curtis was almost dead. Like he could barely speak in the post fight interview. He needed oxygen, right? I actually think Aspinall probably has better cardio. Like Aspinall's not a guy compare Aspinall to like Hamzat. Hamzat gets a lot of first round finishes, but it's because he's out there just blitzing people and expending a lot of energy. And then you clearly see in Hamzat's fights against like Gilbert or uh, Usman, huge drop off in the second and third rounds. I think with Aspinall, yeah, he's getting a lot of first round finishes, but it's a lot. Usually, it's striking. I don't think he's expending way too much energy. He does have like high strike counts per minute, but it's because they're part of his like finishing barrages. Uh, so I think if the fight does go longer than expected, I do think this will be a first round finish for Aspinall. But if it were to go into the later rounds, I actually think Aspinall will probably be in pretty good condition, in my opinion. So yeah, but overall, my pick here is Aspinall first round KO. You're gonna get plus money on that, and look at Aspinall's record. That's most of his finishes, right? So I think it's the most likely outcome. And then finally, for the main event, sorry guys, I don't have a side on this. The only thing I'll give you is the fight's gonna start round two. You're getting minus 950. Easy lock. I don't have to explain why it's a lock. We know it's gonna go past 5 minutes, and at least that way you have money on the main event, right? So that's all I have for that. And we'll revisit and see how I did. But these are all my bets. I've already placed the money, so the money's already placed. And uh, just for transparency, I have $800 in my betting account as of this moment. So I'm placing $8 bets on everything listed here. And yeah, we'll come back next week and see how we did. That's all, and I'm out. See ya.